We do. In fact, the American Snowmobiler magazine just threw out their magazine just in a poll. Out of all the places in the United States and Canada, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan was voted the #1 best trail system.
Wow.
That's saying
that's a pure Michigan event.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You know, I mean, I would have thought that West Yellowstone or somewhere with not only good trails but a lot of picturesque beauty, and yet, you know, Michigan got it over Yellowstone, over Ontario, over New Hampshire. So that's pretty awesome.
That's congratulations. That's really amazing. Now the next item up is then, so we talked about the extensive trail system, the wonderful volunteers. Okay, families getting involved in snow machining is a really kind of a dynamic that I've seen out there. I always used to think it was a bunch of guys coming up from downstate and going on trips, but we're seeing this is becoming even more evolving into a family sport. How does one get started?
Well, you know, what we like to tell people is that you've got a couple of different choices, you know, and getting started, obviously, it does cost some money for new equipment. Probably the best bet, if you really want to see if you like it, they have across northern Michigan and the UP, there's many hotels, motels, and standalone rental places that you can go and rent a snowmobile for, you know, anywhere from 125 to 155, 65 a day, depending on the size of the snowmobile. That's probably your first stop, and you can rent a single sled or a two-up sled that you can ride, you and your wife or you and your family double on.
Okay. So a single sled would be one person.
One person, yeah.
Two-up sled is
two people on it. Yep.
And I've been impressed in the years that I've been going way back to Speaker Johnson from the Cadillac area, that the evolution of transmissions, the evolution of the whole suspension system, the heated seats.
It's amazing.
You know, I mean, I started out in we started out on a moto ski back in the early 70s.
Yeah, with the leaf spring suspension in the front and virtually no suspension in the back. Yeah, that's one of the things that racing has really brought into the technical aspect for me, the trail rider. The suspensions now on the rear usually have anywhere from 10 to 12 inches of suspension. You've got softer seats. You have heated seats. Your handlebars, you have heaters on your handlebars. There's a thumb heater, so your thumb doesn't get cold. Windshields keep the wind off you. Your front is, most of them are all independent front suspension. So as far as if you do get a bumpy trail, you aren't going to, you know, get that pain in your back, or you aren't going to, you know, feel like you're going to lose control. And then the evolution of just the equipment that you would wear, as far as your helmet goes, to keep your head warm and your face shield covered, or face covered with a shield. But the Gore-Tex and the Gore-Tex 3s and all the newer monofilaments used to be, you'd have to layer on 12 layers to stay warm. Most times, you know, even in 0-degree weather, you can wear a t-shirt and have a very thin coat on that just amazingly how it keeps you warm. You know, we've had our families out in minus 35 traveling for the whole day. You know, you can't even keep your water bottle from freezing inside your coat, but yet, you know, you're staying warm.
So we've got a much more technically advanced piece of equipment, so that it's a lot more family friendly.
No doubt.
And then there's access to those types of pieces of equipment. Yep,
you can go to the rental shops, or, you know, there's lots of dealers that sell used equipment. You know, not so much. I don't want to say eBay or places like that, but there's many routes and places that you can buy used equipment online from. But just you know, if you've never done it before, I would suggest rent it, try it. Granted, when you rent one, you usually don't get the best top of the line as far as you know, carbide runners and studs in your track for ice and this and that. But you know, to go out and see if you're going to like it, and you know, you and your wife and family, you can, you know, go out and do that for a weekend, fairly inexpensive. See what Northwoods is all about. But we're seeing that more and more on the trails that. We're seeing, you know, we're, like you say, it used to be a group of guys. Now we're seeing mom and dad and the kids, and they're out there enjoying a winter weekend.
Now, going through the different vendors that are now available to us, you know, there's what Yamaha,
there's
Skidoo, Arctic Cat, and Polaris.
Four manufacturers.
And there was a lot of pressure coming down on sort of emissions and trying to be more green, for lack of a better term. Can you kind of address where that is evolving?
Sure. Probably 5 years ago, or maybe 6 years ago, the EPA regulated snowmobile engines and their output, and actually that was very welcomed by the manufacturers back in the early 2000s. We weren't regulated, so what were happening is I guess the anti-motorized groups were labeling us as, you know, the worst polluters ever, and it was all based on a test that was done with a lawnmower engine in 1978. Since that time, all of the two-stroke engines have been regulated. Now everything meets. There was a 2007 standard, a 2010, and now everybody's meeting 2012. Since that time, manufacturers, to become more friendly, have gone to a four-stroke engine versus a two-stroke engine, interestingly enough, because out in the Yellowstone National Park, they mandated that everything will be a four-stroke engine, which is basically the same engine you would get in a small car. Okay. Versus two-stroke that mix oil and gas together.
So it's similar to a small auto engine. They've gone to a four-cylinder. Okay.
Exactly. Gotcha. So conversely, now the technology moves forward, and now this last couple of years, there's been a couple of manufacturers that have taken a two-stroke engine, and through computerization and technology, they now have better emission controls and cleaner, quieter coming out of a two-stroke versus the four-stroke.
Wow.
So technology is just moving forward to where it's just amazing.
And it's really a customer's preference on who they go to, and each company brings a different set of systems.
Exactly right. And it's, you know, obviously because of those controls, though, costs have gone up. You know, it's a matter of how much more money can you pay to get better emission controls. But we're currently meeting all the EPA standards, and you know, in talking with the manufacturer representative here in town, it's interesting that, of course, all the recreational products have, in this downturn, have taken major setbacks. But snowmobiling has taken the least. You know, when you see motorcycles and ATVs and boats and RVs are down around 60 to 70% less sales. Snowmobiles, even though we're not down that quite dramatically that far. So,
now the thing that I am amazed about is the impact that you have on communities in northern Michigan and the eastern Upper Peninsula. We were on one of the trips coming through Sheboygan and wound up at this place out in the middle of nowhere looking over the Black Lake area, and they actually were more busy in the wintertime than they were in the summertime.
Sure.
I remember when we were up in the eastern Upper Peninsula and stopped in at a gas station, and that they sold more fuel between Christmas and the end of snowmobile season than they did during the summertime.
You're absolutely right, and you know, snowmobiling is a big economic engine for the state of Michigan, northern Michigan, and the UP. You know, because of where the snow falls, it's kind of a trade-off. For, you know, 5 years ago, the UP was getting continually a lot of snow, so we were a very big impact to the UP. This last 2 years, we've gotten great snow in northern lower Michigan, so people haven't traveled as much to the UP, so they're down a little bit. But overall, they figure that the average snowmobiler spends over $150 a day.
Wow.
And you
say that again, $150 a day.
And that is in fuel and food. That doesn't include your hotel and, you know, where if you want to stay out like that.
So a transient snowmobiler, which is a lot of the people coming up from Ohio.
Exactly.
So not $150, but you probably add an extra $100 at least on top of that.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So, you know, in fact, we just Michigan State just did a study on snowmobiling based on last winter, and actually our trail system has improved from the time they did the last one. We've got high marks for the trails, for even though we're in a recession, or have been, the amount of money being spent in Michigan and generated has not gone down at all. So
that's wonderful.
And the state, Michigan State extrapolates that out, and so it's over $1 billion a year that we mean to the economy of Michigan.
Wow. So $1 billion.
$1 billion with a B.